Welcome to the Ill Noise Business Playbook. I am here with Tyler Hock of Beltman Relocation Group, BRG. Tyler, how are you doing today?
I am doing phenomenal. Really appreciate you having me on, Joe.
Oh, man. Well, we appreciate you being here. And since we're looking at, you can't really see this picture over here, but that's a picture of the Chicago skyline. Got the GOAT right here, and who I think is the GOAT of football over here. I'm loving the sign behind you. Can you talk about what that is and
Definitely.
what it means to you? And I guess, obviously you must be a fan of the same team I am. So tell me about where that fandom started from.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously that's the 1985 Super Bowl pennant. It's not an original one. It is a recreation that they, framed and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But, I was born and bred here in Chicago. It's been, part of my sports upbringing is, watching the Bears and, going down to Soldier Field. I know there's some news coming out now that they're going to be moving out to Arlington Heights, which saves me a lot of travel time. That just taking the train down to the city, especially with, I got three brothers, my dad, the whole family, hopping on a train, walking downtown, going through the tunnel with
Yes.
guys banging on the buckets, and
Yes.
the energy is just
Yes.
electric down there on that campus down there. So came up watching that a lot, and huge Chicago sports fan all over.
Favorite Bears moment?
Man, favorite Bears moment would probably be, it's a sad moment, but again, watching that Super Bowl of, it's a sore spot for a lot of people. We didn't have the outcome that we wanted, but that was just such a fun season. Like Urlacher, Briggs, like that defense was just the gold standard, and absolutely crazy. And they kind of, set the stage for that hard-nosed Bears football.
Absolutely.
So that was just impressive. And anytime Matt Forte had the ball, which was just a pleasure to watch.
Right. Well, in that Super Bowl, if the 2006 when they ended up, and I think it was officially 2007 because Super Bowl's in January, but then playing against Colts. If you remember, that game started off a lot of fun when Devin Hester ran that bad boy back to start the game,
Yes.
And I remember with all my buddies going, "We're gonna do it." And, well, we didn't. Then I looked on our side and we had Rex Grossman, and I looked on their side and they had Peyton Manning. So a little bit better on their side, but good memories altogether. And you have, and I will repeat this again. I know I told you this before we started, but you have the '85 Bears.
Yes, sir.
On there, and that is when I personally fell in love with sports in general, and certainly football, and became a Bears fan. It's been a torturous time, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And this is our year. This is our year. I keep saying that, but this is the one.
Absolutely. Hey, we got some good pieces in play. We've got a growing roster, and
Yes.
I'm excited and happy about that. So.
Me too, man. So tell us about BRG. Tell us about your business and what inspired you to start it.
Yeah, so I had the company I'm with, I had worked quite a while on the household side of things, which is much more, hey, here's where you're going, you're meeting individually with people, you're kind of diagnosing their needs and what their plans for the future are and kind of helping them get to that. But there wasn't as much of that kind of ownership of your book of business and those relationships. You'd work with someone, they'd move to Florida or Texas, and then that relationship was pretty much ended. So it was, kind of quick. So coming over to the commercial side of things, it really is more of, running your own kind of business. You've got your relationships, you've got your clients, you're, hunting for things, and you're, getting into the market and really starting to understand who the players are and really having an in-depth understanding of the company and what your capabilities are, and even sort of pushing those a little bit to try to match what people need, which I always find that really interesting. Just
Absolutely.
Sort of looking at a problem and sort of reverse engineering how to take care of it.
What sort of obstacles have you been dealing with as a small business person, and how have you been able to kind of overcome some of those?
Well, so one of the things that we're seeing, especially here in Chicago, it's been a troubling couple of years. There's been a lot of uncertainty, a lot of, financial strain for a lot of people. So especially in the moving industry, we are seeing a lot of those companies that weren't necessarily doing the kind of work that we were doing now entering into the market. So you have to sort of do a little bit more of educating people of, hey, here's what you need. here's what we're able to bring to the table, and try to educate them on the fact that, you know what, you don't always want to go with the discount, right? Discount cleaning supplies, quick, easy, yeah, go ahead. You don't want to cut corners on like your meat, your food, the things that are going to help you run your business. So it's just a matter of, demonstrating our value and getting people to understand, you might be looking at lower price tags, or you might be looking at these couple of things, but these are the things you really need to make sure you're taking care of.
How have you, what sort of strategies have you put in place to grow your customer base? I mean, it's obviously running your business is all about gaining customers, keeping customers, growing your customers. So what sort of strategies do you personally have in place to make sure that you organically grow appropriately?
Really that kind of, straight to the source, relationship building, networking, instead of casting this really wide net, going up on a billboard or doing any of those kinds of things, really starting to meet with those decision makers, meeting with those individuals who are those sort of power players in the market, and saying, hey, here's who we are, here's what we're doing, even if maybe we're not going to do business tomorrow or a year from now. We're an established company. We're great at what we do. And when you have a need 2, 3 years down the line, I'm still going to be here. We're still going to be talking. We're still going to be having that relationship. And that's really what we've been focusing on, is making sure that people know who we are and know that we're here when they have a need.
Tyler, are you doing so by going to being associated with networking groups? Are you doing that by being associated with, maybe the chamber? Like what specifically how are you finding those power players?
Yeah, so you identify those couple of people that are really well connected. Going to those networking groups, big shout out to the One Networking Group. They're great newer organization, really coming together, connecting a lot of people,
Absolutely.
and hitting a couple of those chamber groups. SBA, GOA. Big shout out to Village Networking that happens down there at Bellworks. Really great organization, really bringing people together. And I think the days of that, you're in a networking group, you're paying hundreds of dollars a year, and we're kind of counting those leads going back and forth, really aren't as effective as I've seen them in previous years. Now it's really about that sort of open forum of communication. Hey, my competitors are people that have given me opportunities just like I've returned opportunities to them, and just sort of that more personal networking, as opposed to, here's our group, and he's got 3 leads, you've got 5 leads, hey, you Mr. 3, you need to pick it up a little bit.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, you want it more natural than feeling
Yes,
that
sir.
people are on the clock, right?
Absolutely.
You've been in this industry, so one of the best things about being a business person is not to be reactive, but it's to be proactive. So, what sort of future trends do you anticipate in the industry, and how do you plan on dealing with those trends?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been seeing, at least over the last couple of years, the decommissioning has been king,
Okay.
right? We work really closely with commercial real estate, which has been incredibly volatile. All those pre-pandemic low interest loans and things like that have kind of come to term. Now you see a lot of small, medium-sized landlords that are either handing keys back to the bank, or they're just trying to get people in to hit those capacity standards to keep those loans going. So we're seeing a lot of tenants getting good TI, tenant improvement money, really getting the ability to go into some nice spaces. And we're seeing companies that are saying, well, our sales department and this department and accounting, they don't necessarily need to be in the office. We can shrink our footprint and upgrade from like, a decent, a C up to like an A class, office space. So we're definitely seeing some of that, shrinking down of that office space footprint, but improving those accommodations, because the people you do want in the office, you got to make sure that they really want to be there.
Okay. Tyler, we talked about sports to begin with, and something that we really love and are passionate about. But I'm a big fan of knowing we're doing something and doing it with a purpose, right? I mean, life is short. You might as well leave an imprint in a positive way.
Yes, sir.
I want you to think back, it doesn't have to be one example. You can give me two if you feel like it, but give me a moment of success that you have, whether or not, from aligning what you can do to better serve your community, to really help out a client that was in some sort of desperate situation? Like, give me a feel good moment or two that you've experienced while you've been running BRG.
Sure, sure. So one of the things we kind of look at is, that being able to help, right? That being of service to people, especially in the sort of industry that we're in, we really want to make sure that we are of service to people. So, I've gotten called in on jobs where they've gone a different route and they come to find out, hey, they weren't able to take care of everything that they said they were going to do. Walking into an insurance company, small time insurance company, bit of a startup, mostly, college, very recent college grads, sort of trying to get it figured out in the world. And, again, going with the lowest price, just going with somebody that they thought, hey, we're going to get this done, keep as much in our pocket, not realizing they don't have those expertise to get these cubicles taken down, to get, IT and electric run through those, or, getting guys out there and realizing like, well, I know there's all these, breaks and holes in the wall, there's lights that are out, they're going to lose a bunch of money when they turn the keys over to the old place, they're going to get dinged on a lot of those end of tenant things. So they had a mover that kind of bungled everything. So we were able to walk in there and we were able to go, okay, this needs to be done. We can patch those holes. We can replace these lights. We can make sure that you're not getting dinged on your security deposit moving to the new place. And while that's all happening, your business is shut down. So being able to, on a really, really tight time frame, coming in there over a weekend and saying, listen, you've already lost 3 days of productivity. We're going to knock it out on a weekend, get you set up in the new space, and then you are back to making your calls on Monday morning, trying to recoup some of that lost productivity. So that was a really cool experience, just, kind of getting that call at the 11th hour saying, hey, we are hemorrhaging, we're in a lot of trouble, we're going to be, burning money here, and being able to come in and say, comprehensively, we'll take care of you. We're going to get you back on track and kind of clean up that mess. So that was pretty satisfying.
Kind of quantifies why you're doing what you're doing, right?
Exactly. Yes,
nice. Sir. Tyler, what's the best way that people can reach you? I mean, I'll tell you just from talking on it, I know it's the first time we've met, but you're very passionate about what you like. You're very passionate about the same team I'm passionate about, but you're very passionate about what you're doing. And I think that those are people that my wife and I like to align ourselves with. So how do people reach out to you if they need your support? Social media, phone numbers, whatever you want to give us. What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Sure. So, I am pretty active on LinkedIn. You can always look me up on Facebook, Tyler Hock, HOCK. The website, Beltman.com, is kind of our one-stop shop. We've got a really, really nice web presence. So you can check us out over there. Otherwise, I'm always open for a phone call. Love industry talk, or just kind of having a quick chat during the day. 630-562241. Just look us up online, Beltman Relocation Group. BRG office movers, we've got quite a presence out there, and always looking to chat with people and just sort of learn what's going on out there.
Right on, man. Tyler, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And you have yourself a wonderful day, man. You take care of yourself.
You too. Appreciate you, Joe. Go Bears.